Hello everyone, welcome to today's One Card Wonder Wednesday. Today I'm going to be using the Good Morning Magnolia, and I used the Magnolia Memory dies with this as well. I didn't bring them over here to show you, but there's a set of dies that goes with this, and it cuts out this beautiful flower. This here, it's got a beautiful scallop that you can make this for this edge. It's got some leaf dies, and I think that's maybe a couple of other floral dies that go with it as well. But anyway, I'm gonna pull my video up here so I can make sure everything is on the screen and I can see who's watching, hopefully. Hi Lois, how are you? Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna set this aside because I don't need that right at this moment, but I want to show you the card we're making. Now, I used the Magnolia Memories and More specialty cards, and I think they are fantastic. Look at, I stamped on the inside. It's so cute. Lisa and Lois, you will appreciate that because we all know what the rule is this year: no naked insides for our cards, and I messed that up for the swap the other day. The envelopes for these are fantastic as well. They also have that silver, I guess you'd call it, it's not really embossing because it's more like a debossing because it's printed into, it's not raised up above, but it goes around the envelope and it goes around the front of the card for these Memories and More specialty designer cards. All right, I'm gonna set that aside and we will get started. So the first thing I did was I lined my envelope. I know you'd think that would be the last thing you would do, but the envelopes come with this fantastic liner and you have to put it in yourself. Hi Fran, how are you? But I didn't put any adhesive around the bottom. I put right here where your envelope folds, and then I just did up and around that around the top. If you can, I don't know if you can see that when I'm doing this on camera or not. Sometimes it's hard to see things as far as adhesive when it's stuck down, but then I just slide it in because once it's in there, you're not, the other end is not going to pop out unless someone reaches in there and really pulls it out, and they would really have to reach in there because it slides all the way to the bottom, and that way it keeps that piece of I'm going to call it a DSP because it's basically a printed DSP. That's your envelope liner, and those are all pre-cut and ready to go, so you don't have to cut them and worry about it, but they come right with your cards, and that way you have the option. If you don't want them in there, you don't have to do that. Oh good, that's a good idea. Fran said she colored hers and used it as DSP, which I think is fantastic. So there's the envelope. Throw that to the side because we don't need that right away. Go ahead and get your card base, and again, get that folded and use your bone folder to get that good crease in there. And then I started with a piece of designer series paper, and all I did was cut it to fit inside this silver debossed rectangle that is on the card. Because I didn't want to cover that silver up. You can, and it's just fine, but for this card I wanted that silver to show. So super easy, just get that adhered down. And then I cut a strip. One of the pieces of designer series papers has this fantastic mossy meadow, and it looks textured. And then it has these whisper white stripes, and then there's another green stripe, and then another. But I thought I just want that, just one stripe with two whisper white, one at the top, one at the bottom, and one, you know, the mossy meadow in the middle, because that's just what I thought would look good with this card. So then I just attached it. I cut it the same length as the card, that other piece of DSP, and just attach it toward the bottom. Not all the way at the bottom, but just toward the bottom. Now I also, from this same designer series paper, used those dies, which I believe they're called Magnolia Memory dies, and to cut these magnolia buds out. Now I wanted to show you, because in the stamp set there is also, it's this exact same flower right here that you can stamp, and I stamped it on whisper white, and I just want to show you the difference if you cut those out from up as well. but on my end it is froze up. Sorry, I had to lean across to get my silver thread. So I'm going to take that silver thread and I'm just going to wrap it around all 4 of my fingers, and I'll probably do it, like, if I can hang on to it, 4 or 5 times, because you want a pretty good loop of silver thread. And I know some people don't like working with this because sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. It can be a little hard to keep a hold of because it is so thin. But I cut a little snip in my, I didn't use these scissors, but I cut a little snip with some other scissors that I have in that, so it will hold the thread right there, because otherwise you're taping it down, and when you're trying to get that tape off, it can be a pain. So once you get your little loop, and you'll have several, I took a glue dot and I just kind of stuck it right to that glue dot. And now that it's stuck there, I'm just going to trim off these little edges because I didn't want those sticking out too much. And I'll scoop that up, and you've got it all on one little glue dot there. And I kind of want it coming out from underneath this flower, so I'm literally going to stick that right onto that flower. So now this thread is going to be coming out from underneath it once we adhere this flower on there. Hi Kathy, how are you? Thanks for joining. I already put some dimensionals on the back of these, and I'm just going to take that adhesive right off of those. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere these directly over top of the flowers that were printed, just to give the card that depth. And with this one, it's nice because it's going to be kind of coming off from the edge a little bit. So the card I did yesterday is just a little bit different because it depends on what piece of cardstock you get once you've cut your cardstock, because it's not all going to look the same. Now I took one of the Magnolia Lane cork embellishments. I don't know if you've seen these. I'm going to open them up and show you, but they have those tags, they have these awesome little leaves, and these magnolia flowers in here. Aren't those fantastic? And it comes with, there are 20 pieces total, but these are just a fun element, something different to use for your card making. I used StazOn ink because I wanted to make sure it stamped well on this cork, because I wasn't sure if Memento would work, but I'm like, StazOn works for everything. So let's ink it up good with the StazOn. And then because this Thanks has that little, it's pretty flourished on the left side of the T, you can go over this hole and it's not going to matter. That way your Thanks will fit directly onto that tag. If you try to move it over thinking that you're going to be stamping the T right over that flower, you're not. It's just that little embellished part of it, and that's honestly not too huge of a deal. So you've got the little Thanks there. Take a piece of linen thread, super lovely linen thread. I love, this is one of my favorite things. I use linen thread all the time. I'm sure you've noticed linen thread and vellum. Vellum's really, and it's one of my big ones too. So I just tied a bow, but first I always like to tie a knot whenever I'm using baker's twine or linen thread. I always tie a knot first, and then I'll go ahead and tie my bow. And for some reason, if I turn it this way and tie my bow, then my bow lays the way I want it to. It lays down usually toward, you know, my little tails will be down this way instead of pointing up, which if I were to have tied it the other way, it would have, my tails would have been pointing the wrong way and I would have been frustrated with it. So just go ahead and pull it until you've got the size bow that you want. Trim your tails off a little bit. Super easy. Flip it over and then take some tear and tape. I wasn't sure because I hadn't used these before. I'm sure multi-purpose glue would work with these well, but I didn't think snail adhesive. And I know this is tear and tape, but I always cut it. I'm used to cutting, and that's what I do. I never tear it because I feel like I can't, I don't know, I don't like those rough edges on my tape. So I'm always cutting it. Just one of my little things that I just don't like. So I'm like, I'm gonna stick with doing it the way I wanna do it. So once you've got your little thanks, and we're gonna come over that linen, oh shoot. Sorry, I don't want to do that quite yet. I don't want to stick it yet. I still want a piece of that, another piece of silver thread. And this time, now that it's stuck to the back of that, we'll be able to get it off. Stick it back on there. I want to thread it through, and I'm going to double it, and I got way too much, but that's okay. I'm going to double it before I thread it through. And actually, since we have so much of it, let's just double it again, so we'll have 4 strands sticking through. And I'm going to have to cut these before I can lace them through this hole, otherwise they won't go through once they're looped like that. It's a little difficult. Just lace them through, and then I just tied them in a knot just to have a little more of that silver thread. I love the silver thread. I love the rose gold thread. I don't know if it's called rose gold, but it's a rose color thread. I love that one too. But I look forward to using some of this silver thread with my holiday cards. It's just a little hard to tie when you got 4 strands of it right here, but once I'm done, it's gonna look cute. Just tie that knot and then just kind of pull it so they're all kind of pointing up. I'm gonna trim them off so they're about the same length. And then you've got those that extra little fluff hanging out the top of the tag. So I'm just gonna stick the tag on. I'm going to take some Wink of Stella. Who likes Wink of Stella? If you like Wink of Stella, let me know. I love this stuff. I'm going to add some shimmer to the flowers. And even for me, depending on the angle that I'm looking at, I can't tell where my shimmer has been added, so I just gotta, I should have left this upside down. There we go. Now I'm getting some more. But I just wanted those magnolias to have some sparkle to them too. I love using Wink of Stella on my projects just because it adds that little bit of sparkle where you're not expecting it. So there you have, basically that is the front of the card. For the inside of the card, a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and we're going to use this large magnolia. And I know people are thinking, oh, you're gonna stamp on the whole inside, you're not gonna be able to write, but you are, because what I did was I took Petal Pink ink, which is a light ink anyway, and you can see where I've stamped it off over here when I was designing my card. You're gonna stamp off one time before you stamp it onto your Whisper White. And then once you stamp it on your Whisper White, it's gonna be very light. So now if someone, and this is even lighter than what I did on the other card. So now if you can see it, it's there. But if you wanna write over top of that, you can, but it's still a little bit of an image on the inside of the card. I'm going to use some snail adhesive. Go ahead and get that attached to the inside, and that's it. Super easy. Of course, when you're making it, it takes just a little bit longer because you got to do the die cutting, which, you know, I've already done. But it's a super easy card. It's a beautiful thank you card to send to someone or give to someone. I loved making this card. I love the Good Morning Magnolia bundle and suite. So if you're interested in any of those, just go to valeriesmith.stampinup.net. You can purchase the products for this. I'm going to post all of the measurements and the photo of the card on my blog in just a few minutes. That's stampinwithvalerie.com. So head over there if you want the written instructions and the measurements. I appreciate you watching. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.